Tuesday, everybody. My name's Aaron. I'm the co-founder and managing director here at BWG Connect. We're a giant networking knowledge sharing group. I spend the majority of my time talking to brands around digital strategy as a whole. What are your biggest pain points? What are you trying to solve for? And when the same topics come up over and over again, we host an event like this. Another thing I'm doing is I'm also asking everybody, hey, who's working for you and who's not? Who are the thought leaders out there that you lean on? And when the same people come up over and over again, they're the ones we invite on to be a sponsor for the webinars that we do and the dinners as well. So if you are in a tier one city, if you're going to any of the big shows upcoming, ping us. If we're doing a dinner there, more than happy to send you an invite. And just would love to network and pick your brain on what you're tackling and what you'd like us to talk about next. I don't think anybody is surprised that we're doing a topic on AI and Amazon. As we were just talking just before we kick this off, a lot of changes going on nonstop within the Amazon ecosystem. Has a lot of people on top of the tariffs already, pulling their hair out, just trying to understand, hey, what's next? And so we got some really good friends, partners, supporters of the network over at Lunge Marketing, and we just asked them to jump on today and kind of share their thoughts on what's going on, and then also answer as many questions as we can throw at them. So as you get to the end of the housekeeping items here, number one, drop any questions you have along the way in the Q&A section, and we'll get to as many of those as possible. The other, we're starting this 3 to 4 minutes after the hour, and we're going to wrap up with at least 3 to 4 minutes left in the hour. We're going to give you plenty of time to get on to your next meeting without being late. And with that, I don't mind. Like Trisha, I'll kick it over to you if you want to, kick us off with, a brief intro to yourself and Lunge. That would be awesome. And then we can kind of go around the horn, and then we'll kick off the content. Sound good?
That's great. Thanks, Aaron. Hi, everybody. My name is Trisha Hubbard. I am the co-founder and president of Lunge Marketing. We are a full-service Amazon agency. We also work on the Walmart platform. Our categories span sports and outdoors, housewares, home improvement, health and personal care, lawn and garden, apparel, supplements, and a niche in licensing. So I think in our 15 years, we've touched every category.
It's awesome.
I'll let you go, Josh.
Yeah, it sounds good. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are to everyone. My name is Josh Fulmer. I'm the executive creative director here at Lunge, and a lot of my background in AI was personal interest when it was all kind of getting to the front. And I'm a big Dungeons and Dragons nerd. You can see behind me, and I would use it for Dungeons and Dragons to do creative artwork. So I kind of really dove into it really early and have evolved with it in more of a corporate sense. So really excited to have this conversation today, and thank you to BWG for having us. And I'll pass it off to you, Jonathan.
Thank you, Josh. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Jonathan Wilner. Been in the Amazon ad space for the past 10 years with a focus on growing enterprise brands with an emphasis on connected commerce and holistic solutions across retail operations, advertising, content, data. It's all connected, and now it's all connected to AI. So I'm excited to be here talking about it with you today.
Yeah. Awesome. So a quick reminder to everybody, if you have questions along the way, drop them in the Q&A section there, and we'll get to those as we go. I mean, I don't even know where to kick this off at. So I'm going to throw it over you because it is so immense. Everything that we could tackle, paid media, content creation, Rufus, all that fun stuff. So I'd love to hear like high level, your thoughts around AI, Amazon, where it's at right now, where it's going, and then we want to jump into the content as well. We can do that. I just want to kind of level set like how you're seeing it, and we can kind of, I think that is baselining for everybody where Amazon's at.
Yeah, I think in my mind, the best way to start this might be, Jonathan, we've had some good conversations about, what really is AI. I think that when we talk about that across the board in the world right now, there's so many people that say, "Hey, I used AI for this really awesome thing," and really, it might just be someone using ChatGPT as opposed to building an AI agent or building a workflow. So I think the real level set here is kind of what is AI as we talk about it generally across the board.
Sounds perfect. I love it.
Where that is. So, Jonathan, I think if you're open to it, the idea of like kind of the conversation of just an algorithm that we use in advertising versus AI as a holistic picture, do you think that's a good starting point, or should we kind of start earlier than that and kind of where AI came into the world?
No, I think that's a good place to start. It's easier in this conversation to talk about what isn't AI that is often mistaken for AI than it actually is to define AI, in my perspective. So we can start there. I think that's a good spot. If you have been in this space for the past year and you're not living under a rock, then you're probably bombarded with AI solutions for Amazon problems. But what does that mean? To Josh's point, does that mean somebody's typing things into ChatGPT for you? Is that AI? It's somebody using AI, but is that an AI solution for this for you? Similarly, is an algorithm an AI, right? We see this all the time, and we have our AI bid optimization tool. I'm sure you've heard people pitch that. But is it really AI, or is it just an algorithm that has essentially been functioning more or less the same way for the past 10, 15 years? Is that algorithm being trained on AI? Well, then maybe there's an AI component in there, but what is actually happening there? Is it AI? So I think it's easier to say what is not AI, and so an algorithm that runs is not AI. If it's optimized via AI, it's still not AI. It's improving via the use of AI, but it itself is not AI. So maybe that's a good place to start. Josh will probably be able to better define what it actually is rather than what it's not.
Yeah, and what percentage, because you're right, everybody's being pitched 9 times a day. If it's not email, then it's on LinkedIn about these new AI. Do you have like a percentage? I mean, you're in the agency space. You have to be pitched nonstop as well. What percentage do you, when you take a step back, is actually AI? And then how hesitant should people be right now? Rather than, you think about the COVID time, there was like FOMO on every new tech that came out. So everybody signed up because they didn't want to miss out. And now I think we're in a time we need to be in tech stack rationalization. We have to be a lot more prudent on what we're bringing on. Is there like most of it is in AI and we need to be a lot more cautious?
Yeah, I mean, again, it comes back to, what are we defining it as
Yeah.
as AI, and what is the language that's used in the pitch specifically? Is the tool that is being called AI positioned as an AI tool, or is it being positioned as an AI improved tool? Because those are different things. So, to try to answer your question, I'd say the majority of what I
Yeah.
see called AI is not truly AI. It might be improved by AI, it might interact with AI, but it itself is not AI. I can't give you an actual number, but I'd say the majority. Is that your experience, Josh?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. And Aaron, I think it's I can bring a kind of a use case to that and how we talk about it in that way. But I'd say, you could make up a number. I could ask ChatGPT of what percentage that might be, but it's going to be a made up number because it can't scan everything. Even if you are using a tool like ChatGPT and how powerful it is right now, it's not going to touch everything that's up to date, right? It doesn't index everything all the time. But I would say, as Jonathan mentioned, the vast majority of what we see pitched or spoken about is very heavily leaned on AI. I think the thing to really touch base on here is, as Jonathan mentioned, how we describe that. Is it an AI tool or is it a tool that's been empowered by its AI usage? Um, so yeah, I think that's super, super important to differentiate. And I think that as you do talk to different groups and people, using your critical thinking skills to see and dive in to see if it's actually an AI built tool where someone has built out an LLM, or if it's just something where they've built in a ChatGPT plugin. So I think that's really healthy to look at.
Yeah, and I would encourage you, everyone who's listening, challenge what's being presented to you as AI. If somebody comes to you with a pitch and says, this is AI, ask, how is this AI? No, in what way is this AI? In what way is this different than the tools that existed before it was called AI?
Yeah.
And maybe they'll have a good answer for you, maybe they won't, but that's really for you to determine. We're sort of defining AI here, but that doesn't mean that it's a standard definition. Use your brain, use your thinking, but my challenge to you is don't just accept that something is AI when you're first here, that it's AI. Push on it, challenge it, try to understand exactly in what way is this AI? Is it AI?
Yeah. Um,
I
so
love it because I mean, I think everybody is as everybody gets pitched, that's great. Like, is it AI? Tell me why it is AI. And along those lines, like if it's not, if it's AI on top of the current tool, okay. I just want to understand that. But I know executive teams nonstop. There's been some funny posts on LinkedIn are asking for you to use AI, and people are like, I don't know. I don't even know where to start.
Um, so there's been a
So really
couple.
quick on this subject, do you think there's a lot of confusion between what is machine learning versus AI? And then Lindsay, I see your comment as well. I'm so glad you're talking about this, what it is and what it isn't. And Jessica, we see your question. We'll get to the Rufus and AI and ads as well. But from Joseph here, do you think there's a lot of confusion between what is machine learning versus AI?
I absolutely do. I think that that is a very interconnected term right now for people. I think anything touching on AI, large language learning models, machine learning, algorithm, I think that is so meshed and convoluted in how people view it in the business and their personal sense. And I think that's really, to Jonathan's point just now, is make sure that you're challenging when people are bringing those up. Is this actually, a custom LLM, or is this just machine learning that's been standardized to support an algorithm, right? What is making this a dynamic and learning AI platform versus something that is just a standardized sequence that we've been used to for quite some time now?
Yeah,
I
and
want
I
to keep pulling that thread if you see this question in here as well. What is the best way to explain it to leadership?
Hmm.
I know, right? I
that's
mean, it's difficult because there's that level of leadership that still thinks in some way, shape, or form that in essence it might be cheating in a way. And
So
um, oh, go ahead.
I think Jonathan was about to say something, and once you say that, Jonathan, I've got an idea of how I personally would explain it to someone, but I think you're about to say something, Jonathan.
Yeah, it's less about how to explain it because I wish I had a great answer for that. But I think part of it is that this confusion is well known, right? That everybody who's slapping AI on all of their tools knows that they can get away with it because there's so much confusion around what this is and what this isn't. And so I think it's just, again, it's one of those areas where like we as the people in this industry have a responsibility to ourselves and to the people that we serve to push back on this and really question, how is this AI? Is it machine learning? Is it a large language model? Is it, what is this? What makes it AI? But I'll turn it back to you, Josh, to try to answer the question.
Yeah, so the way I would describe it to someone, and there are going to be people way better at AI in this whole world than I am, but if I was to explain this to someone, I would say thinking about a machine learning model where it's taking its learning and it's learning its kind of what it can do based on its input versus input for output, right? So it takes its input, it learns from that, and then it gives an output. I would say building into LLMs in a more traditional use of how we view AI is it takes in all that data and then it thinks about it and then gives a different output. So it's actually having some dynamic growth there and not just doing an input output method. I think there is more development in the way that it processes that information than just a standard machine learning model. Does that kind of answer your question, Joseph? Hopefully so.
Yeah,
Hopefully something that's a little bit legible there.
yeah. He says yes. All right. How AI stormed our world.
Yeah, so I'm gonna jump in here and Jonathan, Trisha, feel free to interrupt me. But from what I've seen, it's been really cool to see how AI has developed and really kind of jumped the gun, right? And there's a couple little bit of information here on how Instagram, it took 2.5 months to hit 1 million users, where it took ChatGPT a total of 5 days with their OpenAI platform. And this even I think this I put this data together in I think 2023 when I was kind of doing some research on it, and over 100 million users within 2 months and 1.8 billion visitors to the site per month. Now, when we look at that in modern day and we look at the growth there, ChatGPT averages on 4.6 billion usage and it hits 5 billion average monthly visits for the first time in 2025. And that's really kind of taken the storm of everything, right? Everybody knows ChatGPT, and then we have other models such as Grok, such as Meta, such as Claude, perpetually DeepSeek, Gemini, Copilot, right? There's this whole storm of different AI platforms that we can build upon, but ChatGPT is still known as the kind of the standard that people go to, and it is because of user experience, right? It is because I as a user maybe a little bit more elevated, I can go in and build a custom GPT to support our business, right? I can build a GPT that I know what the actions it's going to build. And now that's become part of like the business model, right? We've done something that will save us time and efficiency because we built a tool to assist us in that. That is still within the ChatGPT program, right? We're not building a full AI tool, but we're building a process within ChatGPT to build our efficiencies and growth there. So I think that's pretty rad to be able to do, and kind of something fun for you to think about within your own workflow. Um, Kind of talking about that same growth, right? Outside of GPT and AI tools and the large language learning model and the conversational AI, we also have tools like Gamma. We have tools like Gemini. We have tools like Zonguru, which we're going to talk about today, or Midjourney, or FreePick, or things like Rovo or Read AI Notes, right? There's so many different note-taking apps, right? As right now, everyone in this room is just going, "Oh my gosh, there's 4 robots in this meeting. There's 2 people." Right? When you're doing those daily meetings and you're doing a check-in with someone, and you've got 3 different note takers there because they're on the meeting invite. So I think something really healthy to think about as that pops up in this conversation is um, streamlining where you're looking at those. So if someone's using Read AI and someone else is using uh, some other platform, right? Figure out what works for everyone and consolidate, make it efficient for you. I think a big part of this conversation too is having AI not be clutter for you. AI should be a tool to help empower you. It shouldn't be something else that just adds clutter to your day, right? It should be something that really facilitates that. Uh, okay, I didn't ramble too much there. So we kind of talk about some of the properties there, and we're going to go into a little bit of the Amazon AI stuff as well with Rufus, Cosmo, and Jessica. We did see your question, and then also Bulldog, which is another platform that's going to have been surfacing. Trisha, Jonathan, is there anything you guys want to talk about on kind of how we've come into AI and how that's surged into the world?
I think you touched on a really interesting point there. Going back to the earlier question of, there's pressure from senior leadership at organizations to use AI, but it's usually a very vague direction, like just use AI more, make it more efficient. And I think that's, it's really overwhelming for people to try to just dive in and use AI. But I think a better question is, what process are you struggling with? And can AI help you with that process? That is how you get your foot in the door to AI adoption. If your direction is fairly vague, to Josh's point, maybe it's something as simple as a note-taking AI. That's using AI. That's saving you time writing agendas and sending recaps and meeting notes. That's using AI. That if you can show that to your senior leadership that you have saved time on an internal process by leveraging AI, like that's what they want to see. They may not be able to give you the direction to go start there in your AI journey. But that's a great way to get your foot in the door. And I think that's sort of where people get a lot of, just overwhelming choices and they're not sure where to step forward. Like the best way to think about it, I think, is what's currently taking you longer than you would like it to. That's where that's where you should start.
And also, like you mentioned before, with these note takers, it does a recap of your meeting. So when you have to do a follow-up, it's almost already completed for you. You just have to do a once over. And the efficiency of all of this is really, to me, what leadership likes to see.
Yeah, a lot of time saving. A point you brought up there, Jonathan, of figuring out what you do need to solve. I think that's just a really easy use case to dive into this, right? If you are thinking about this now as like how I can use AI, use GPT as a conversational tool, right? I think a lot of people, when they even think about GPT or Gemini, whatever platform you use, they think it's, oh, I need to put in this big prompt. You can talk to it like you would a regular person. You could say, hey, I'm trying to figure out what I want to solve for my company. These are my current choke points. And can you recommend any tools that you think would help solve this? And it'll spit out some information to you. And a big part of this overall conversation is realizing that that is not a solution. That is an idea and a checkpoint and a step in your process. It's going to give you some ideas, but that doesn't mean those are the best ideas. So take that as a step in your process to build this solution. Um, no, and Trisha, to your point, the note takers, I love the recaps. The thing that drives me crazy that I'm still trying to facilitate in my mind is when there's 3 different AI note takers and each one of them gives me a different recap. I think that's when I'm talking about clutter, it's like figuring out how you get everyone on the same platform in a way that makes sense for that business, right? And I'm not saying specifically to our company, it's across platforms, right? But it's
Right.
super fun to see how much variance there is.
Correct. I think a theme here too for everybody to remember is humans are still the final filter in everything.
Yeah.
So it is efficient, but you still have to do it. You can't just have it generate for you and send it or have it be final. You have to put your final set of eyes through it.
I think that's so true.
I think that's a really good point that like humans are not obsolete yet, right? AI is not there yet. it's there to help the human brain and point the human brain and guide the human brain and gather information for the human brain, but it is not a replacement for the human brain. And I don't see that around the corner at this point. We talk about that our robot overlords and what that will look like in the future. Like, that is not around the corner, but teams that aren't making themselves more efficient by leveraging AI getting left in the dust by teams that are leveraging AI to make themselves more efficient. That's here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. You have to embrace it.
In my perspective, I think we set a really good foundation on what is and what isn't AI, and I think we maybe start breaking into Amazon a bit here. Everyone on board with that?
Perfect. And it
Awesome.
leads into Jessica's question, it looks like here too.
It does. I'm super stoked on that. So let's give a little bit of the groundwork on what Rufus is versus Cosmo, and then also another platform called Bulldog. So Rufus and Cosmo kind of work hand in hand, honestly. So we can look at Cosmo as more of the back end and more of something that you would kind of think of as machine learning and an LLM and building up those common sense use cases and user behavior. And then Rufus itself is actually that chat plugin where you can see what people are asking, right? So you can actually open up a chat column and say, hey, Rufus, tell me about this. Jonathan, so you might be able to answer this better than I can, but Jessica asked, I am seeing sponsored ads within Rufus. Curious to know if you guys know of any paid strategies to make sure you are placed within Rufus.
So that's a very new forefront here. I will say that, well, we want to talk a little bit more about how Rufus has sort of positioned itself as the middleman on Amazon, and really outside of Amazon as well. AI in general has now, like, if you think about the customer journey, traditionally it was this funnel, and increasingly over the past few years, we hear the customer journey is nonlinear. AMC helps us identify how that meandering path is no longer just a funnel, right? But now there's a whole new element in the journey that didn't used to be there. And that is shoppers consulting AI for what they expect to shop around for on Amazon. So, that could mean, hey, ChatGPT, what should I expect to pay for a good PFOA-free nonstick frying pan on Amazon? Like, what can I expect that to cost going in before I even get to Amazon? Or Rufus, what sleeping bags are rated for whatever, below freezing, waterproof, and are not frequently returned? Right? That frequently returned badge is increasingly relevant here. That didn't used to exist. And so increasingly, the job of advertisers is not to present our material, present our product information, our brand information, our brand value to shoppers directly. Like, that's still happening. But now we need to present that to AI so that it can regurgitate it back to shoppers in a way that we want. And it will pull everything, right? It's not, you ask Rufus something, it may give you insight into something that didn't happen on site. When we look at, what is our brand presence on Amazon? Anybody that's been doing this for a while has a warehouse of tools to use to determine what's our share of voice, what's our share of shelf, where do we sit relative to the competition, right? All of that. How are shoppers finding our products? What search terms are they entering? What audience buckets do they fall into? But increasingly, there's now this middleman, and it's a little bit limited. We don't have as much visibility into how shoppers are interacting with Rufus as we would have, right? If you've been in the Amazon ads game for a while, you're super familiar with search term reports and have spent hours and hours and hours of your life organizing them and analyzing them and using tools to streamline that analysis. But now there's this whole other middleman in there. So I'm meandering around your question here a little bit. All that is to say, it's our job to position our tools to be filtered by Rufus into shopper information and shopper engagement.
I think that's really fair.
And is that so? Rufus then is pulling from detail page, content, ratings, reviews. Is it going off Amazon as well? Is it a traditional LLM that just happens to reside on the Amazon platform? Because that gets super complicated, right? I mean, to feed all those places the right content so it shows up in search when they're using Rufus. That's, I think, what people
I think that it's feeding into a new program that Amazon launched called Here are the Highlights. I'm not sure if anybody here has seen that. It's only available on mobile. It's a beta that's getting rolled out in different categories. We've seen it on some supplement pages. We've seen it on some cosmetic pages, but essentially it is taking content off Amazon, from everywhere, off Amazon, your D2C, reviews, everywhere. And it's compiling it into a 2-minute podcast style person speaking to you about the features and benefits of this product. And that's where we also go down the path of, do you want your product everywhere? Because you might have good reviews on Amazon, but you may not have a good review on some random website that it is pulling in to create that 2-minute little voice podcast about your product. So that's where content is king, and you've got to make sure that it is really wrapped up across all platforms, and think about the distribution of where your products are, because the content is going to be pulled in to Amazon.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Josh.
No, Aaron, to answer your question, from what we've seen and digging into the Rufus platform, it does not search the web. It searches Amazon shopping behavior specifically. But that could be evolving, right? I haven't checked on it in the last month to see if they've changed that platform. But initially, as it was built, Rufus was checking user behavior on Amazon specifically to build its model.
Right.
Sorry, Jonathan.
No, that's okay. That's yeah. And so Amazon knows that shoppers browse around all over the internet, right? Like we talked about the customer journey being nonlinear. That's established fact. We know shoppers will go to Amazon, look at prices, see what's available, go to Target, go to Walmart, check things on Google, maybe even, set foot in the store and be browsing on their phone while they're in there. So Amazon is motivated then to keep that on Amazon, right? If shoppers can do that kind of analysis and evaluate prices and reviews and things like that from multiple websites without actually navigating away from Amazon, that's a huge benefit for Amazon. It means more than likely the shopper's going to purchase whatever product they choose on Amazon. The more shoppers can spend time on Amazon, that's obviously in Amazon's interest. And that's the natural direction that this will go in, right? Even if this isn't pulling that in right now, it will. And that's Amazon's goal here, is to keep shoppers on site and let them do that exploring, let them do that analysis, but let them do it from Amazon so they don't actually navigate away.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Awesome. A quick reminder for those of you who joined us halfway through here, if you have any questions at all, drop into the Q&A and we'll get them answered as we go. Awesome.
Cool.
Awesome. Yeah.
We're going to talk about not a trade secret, but a benefit for coming to something like this with BW Connect and us is that learning about tools that you might not know about. And so Amazon's currently utilizing a tool called Bulldog. And Bulldog's really primary use is to cross-check UPC and GS1. So if you or anyone you've networked with, anyone you've talked to have said, oh, I've just had listings disappear, it's because Amazon's pulling those directly based on an algorithm and AI platform that's searching them to cross-check UPC and GS1. So this caused a big hubbub about a month and a half ago. There was stuff all over LinkedIn of like, my listings have disappeared. What has happened? And then all of a sudden Amazon Bulldog was announced, or it had been announced in the past, and people are now seeing it surface because of the correlation there. But that's something to really keep an eye on, and to recognize that you need to stay up to date with these tools. And even if you think AI is great or not, whatever it might be, when it is affecting a stream within your revenue platform, that you need to know what's going on with it. And it is going to affect, businesses are using it. And some of your biggest marketplaces like Amazon are focusing on it. So it is a good tool to acknowledge and know about, that Bulldog will cross-check those for you. And you've got to keep an eye out for it, especially if it's somewhere within your trails.
I think it's also worth noting here that by the time Amazon has released whatever AI products that will be coming in the pipeline, by the time they're announced and released, they will have been thoroughly trained on your data already. So the time is now to start thinking about how you are feeding your information into Amazon's AI tools before you even know what those tools are. And what that means is just thinking really carefully about how shoppers are interacting with your brands and your products, both on and off site, because the data is already flowing. It takes a long time to feed AI data sets and to train them and test them and make sure that they're working properly. Amazon is all in on this. And so they're already doing that. And so by the time you hear about these tools, it's too late at that point to start implementing your feed into those AI tools.
Yeah, I think that's super valid, Jonathan.
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, I think it's also really quick worth noting on the data side that all of these AI tools, they do run off of data, and the better the data, the better the output, right? Garbage in, garbage out, excellence in, excellence out. And what's really interesting is that's a lot on the AI tools that brands are being pitched to every day. But it's also very interesting that the retailers that are using AI, Amazon, Walmart, Target, who everybody's going to be using on the back end, they're also now, what I'm reading from that is that they're now going to be requiring extra clean data and a standardization so it allows their AI algorithms to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the next level of pushing it back down to the brand, where it used to be new item setup form. If you didn't know, you just kind of typed in, and as long as it wasn't dimensional or weight or something restricted, then it still got uploaded and it went in.
Yeah.
But this could be a detriment going forward.
Yeah. So a really, really good use case and understanding of that. I'm not sure if everyone in this webinar has recognized, but there is a point in time recently where people found out that if you are sharing your ChatGPT chats, Google was indexing that. And so you could be having a conversation with a ChatGPT and saying, hey, I want to do this, I want to do this, and sharing it to a coworker. And all of a sudden, Google was actually indexing that because it was a shared chat. So instead of copy and pasting the text, you just send that. If you shared the chat itself, Google is then indexing that. So there's a big thing that happened is almost a security leak and a security risk. So that's something to be aware of is how you're sharing that information, what information you're putting in to different AI platforms. But in consciousness of kind of our overall message of Amazon specifically, we're going to talk a little bit about catalog management and kind of what that looks like. The overall process that we're going to touch on is creative use, how you can use creatives in AI, and really got some leaps and bounds there, especially if you don't have the budget to do lifestyle shots, and also how we do some content management and some really cool tools there, and then of course advertising as well, which we touched on a little bit. Um, One thing to touch on the overall workflow and how you look at AI within your business is what I mentioned a little bit earlier of fine tuning a GPT for yourself. So there's some really cool use cases of maybe scanning some content for very specific things you want when you're doing copy paste and checking content. And we'll talk about what we do there. But you can build out GPTs within ChatGPT or different tools. You can use Llama directly if you really want to dive deep into more development types. But um, looking at some workflows like that to benefit yourself, where you are saving yourself or your team time and workflows, can be really impactful. I also encourage all of you to dive into AI agents. We don't have nearly enough time to get into that today, but essentially you can build out a network of checkpoints where it will go through different processes and different steps and then circle back wherever you want it to, and it'll go through a full workflow to support your business and give you efficiencies. A quick, easy way to think of this that is really well known would be something like Zapier or Make, and then building out an AI agent around that to support your business with those automation workflows. So I think that's really healthy for you guys to dive into personally. And I think we're also able to kind of follow up at some point as well. That's a great, Joseph, I see the question there. I think that could be something we talk about.
And we set up a call for AI agents. Yes, we can.
So I'm gonna dive through this just in respect of time, because I know that we said we're gonna leave some people some time at the end, and I want to touch on some of the data that we actually really use to empower on Amazon. In my world and creative direction, it's really important that we give the best results possible, even if we don't get all the best tools. So there'll be times when we work in different environments where someone says, here are my product images, that's all I can give you, and here is a 3-page brand style guide. And then all of a sudden, our responsibility is then to make that on Amazon to stand out with its lifestyle imagery, with some really cool like PDP images and some brand story. And so it's our responsibility then to take that just basic image of a product and build it into a lifestyle shot. AI has empowered us to do that just exponentially, right? Before it was, okay, we have to Photoshop this in, we have to do shadows. And now, really modern tools right now are tools like Nano Banana that Gemini is using specifically is extremely powerful. You can literally say, this is my product, I want to drop it in, and it'll drop it in right next to where you want it. We've seen some really cool workflows with tools like Free Pick, Adobe's Firefly is really hit or miss. Figma is near and dear to my heart. They've got a really cool image make platform within that. But there's a lot of different options on how you can approach that and really empower your brand. So I'm going to show you a couple examples here. I get excited. I start talking fast. Sorry, guys. But a couple examples. What I have here on the top image is a little bit blurred out, but this is how we would do image generation on a local machine. So I would take my very expensive design computer and I would install an LLM for image generation on there, and then I would do a full platform. That image itself is about this big. It shows your inputs, your outputs, your different checkpoints you're going through, and you can create that way. That being said, most businesses don't have the ability to do that. So now there are tools like Midjourney, and it's building it into a database where you can work within. Um, so an example of before and after, I'm very visual, is we look at something like Lilo and Stitch, right? Initially, okay, here's the products, here's its cool brand style guide behind it, and here's how we can really kind of tell that story. That's not the most exciting thing for our consumers. Part of our responsibility as creatives in the Amazon and e-commerce workspace is to catch people's attention. So when I can make it look a lot more like it's a Lilo and Stitch adventure, that's going to stop someone dead in their tracks, right? This is an A+ page where we use some generative AI practices and then put it through Photoshop to make it look even a little bit more realistic. And it's not perfect, right? You'll always catch things in AI. You'll see the fingers, you'll see different eye shapes. And so it's really working through this. And again, using it as a tool and a step in your process as opposed to just a final solution. So instead of us just saying, hey, render this cool bag with these people, we say, let's render this scene. Okay, and then we'll bring in some bags, we'll bring in some different products, and then render this, and we'll do steps. We'll do steps and we'll do processes. But it'll really kind of elevate these images. One we've been super excited about is some work we did with Superman, and kind of just showing a kid, playing with some toys at this table that feels like kind of really excited about this movie. But within the same responsible use we're talking about, we aren't taking an actual picture of someone's room, or we aren't taking some artwork we don't have rights to. And I think that's really important to consider when you are doing these creative choices. So we've done some really cool work with that. We're very excited about it. The use cases we see there, and we've gotten great feedback on conversion, right? Okay, this is cool deliverables, Josh, but why does it matter? What are the results? We've seen elevated sales. We've seen better responses on click-through rates. And it's just been really healthy overall. We've seen really impressive results on brand stores where we use some of these and we can actually track those metrics, and just seeing sales increase year over year. I won't say what brand it is, but there was a 2,000% increase year over year after a redesign with some AI imagery, which is insane. And yes, we drove traffic with ads, and that sounds like a made up number. I promise it's not. I can't show you the data, but it's really cool to see that kind of elevation when you use responsible design with AI and bring it in to really tell a brand story.
Mhm.
Is this the new standard then too? Like you're able to do that. It's not a reshoot, right? If you want the next round, you can go in and alter that
Mhm.
for
So
whatever ratings, reviews, whatever they might say back. You can go literally adjust it near real time.
yes, you can, right? You can do that reshoot. I will say, and something to consider is people can tell when it's a generative AI. For right now, people can still tell when it's been generated. It's always really healthy to do that lifestyle shoot. I
Mhm.
would say this is a really good tool to facilitate that kind of evolution if you need to. But yeah, you can edit things really rapidly, right? The way we program prompts for image generation specifically, a lot of time will be weighted. So I'll say, hey, this is the build that I'm doing. This is how I want it to do. So I can rinse and repeat that image. There's something called JSON prompting where you basically give whatever platform you're using an image and say, hey, build me a JSON based on this. And it'll give you this very built out structure that looks like code. And then you can make edits within that. So you can say, hey, this scene was shot for Lilo and Stitch. I want it on a beach. One of the JSON prompts within that would be beach. If I wanted to be like, okay, we're doing this for fall, I want it kind of like in a forest, I could change that beach setting to forest and keep the rest of the image the same. So you're able to kind of facilitate different seasonal changes or sales, if that kind of answered your question well. Um,
Yeah, it's just the content piece is, I think generative AI for content is one of the biggest things that it's out there right now that people are looking to use. And people are wondering how far behind they are in it. And what I'm picking up is not super far behind because you can create it, but if you're putting people, sometimes animals, there's still the human eye will catch it. Um,
yeah, it's there's tools and steps to take, right? It's a full, that's another big presentation on how you can do creatives with AI. But it's something to look into. It's something to start dabbling in. If you do have a creative team that's looking at this, try it with Adobe Firefly. Try it with just ChatGPT straight up. Try it with Google's Nano Banana. I'll let you know right now, you're gonna get those weird fingers. You're gonna get weird faces. You're gonna have to learn how to do these prompts. But it is beneficial to do that. There is a learning curve and there is a foundational building time that's going to take away time from your deliverables. But the results that you get once you get these tools built in place are so impactful. And whoever you work with is going to realize how much money that's going to save them on doing lifestyle shoots when they don't have that budget, or building out custom ads for different seasons or releases, whatever it might be. It is worth it. Okay, I think we kind of continue into content itself and that writing. The thing that I always say jokingly, and I think Trisha's got some good stuff on this here, but is whenever I see that EM dash, that's the big thing on LinkedIn right now. When you see someone doing a post with an EM dash, you're like, ah, you wrote that with AI. And so seeing that within your Amazon writing too is real recognizing those things where people recognize that it was written with AI. That being said, there's a benefit for using as a step in your process because you now know that if I wrote this with an LLM that might be trained on your Rufus tendencies, it might have a better idea of how to get picked up within that. Um, Trisha, I know you said you wanted to talk a little bit about content. Do you want to cover some of this and how we do our processes here?
I think just a little bit. I'll let you also speak to it, Josh, since you were pivotal in helping our content team create some of the models that we use. But I would just like to say that we embraced this when Cosmos was launched on Amazon, and we are actively using our ChatGPT plugin with some of our content creation tools and the modeling that we've also been able to create for our different brands and their brand voices. Our efficiency in new item setup, auditing content, refreshing content for Rufus has given us back almost 40% of time from our content team. It's been really impactful. So I just encourage everyone to really embrace the tools. It's been a godsend for us, for our team, quite honestly. And then I don't know if you want to add anything else to that as far as the different tools that we use. That I know some of them, but I know you know more of them, Josh.
Yeah, I think so what we've done as a workflow essentially is we've said, hey, this is the listing we want to rewrite, right? And we're still building out our actual AI agent to support that because that's a tool we learn, right? We're evolving with that. But the process is essentially this is the content, this is where we wanted to get it to go. And so we built out a custom GPT to support that. We've worked with another AI platform to so basically it'll be AI platform will do some work for us. We'll run it through a custom GPT we facilitated that is specific to Amazon and the restrictions that we want. And then we'll get an output, and that output will go through a person who goes through all this and makes sure that it gives that output that we need in a way that's human touched, and then we'll bring it to Amazon. So it's like a 3-4 touch process, but it still gets that human touch at the end to make sure it adheres with our standards and adheres with the bar that we've set as an agency with excellence before we kind of really output that into Amazon itself. Some ideas for you to use within your content generation is ideation, figuring out what you want to do with it, figuring out restricted words on Amazon. There's a very big library on Amazon that you have to adhere to with restricted words and different things there. That could be on a
helpful, and especially some of our hazmat products, lawn and garden products, supplements, especially so many restricted words. This has changed the game on efficiency of that too.
yeah. So and think about it in the broad sense for those of you here is having someone read through, and if they're a speed reader, read through all these different things over and over to try to find these little words. You're saving infinite time if you build out a platform to kind of scan for those restricted words. Cross-referencing data can be really healthy if you're able to scan sites and then cross-reference data within your catalogs. Technical data can be really, really important. If you've got a very technical heavy product, can be very easy to miss dots or inches or feet. So cross-checking that can be really impactful. And then things as simple as Amazon bullet points, right? Getting the writing for those and ideation for that can be really powerful. With all this, again, I'll sound like a broken record, is check your data. Whatever output you get, check it. Don't say this is a solution and it's good. A funny story I tell when I'm talking about AI with people is this time, and I think it was 2022 or 2023, and there was a lawyer who had put out this case to a judge, and they started reading through it, and it was clearly written by AI and was referencing cases that didn't exist. And so the court was the case was thrown out immediately, but it was like referencing like someone versus someone, this reference, and they looked it up and there's no such case. And the AI platform was just making up something to fill in that data. So just be conscious of what your output you're getting from these AI platforms and making sure it's actually adherent to what you're trying to execute on. I think the rest of our time, I tried to save up some time for breathing room for Jonathan to talk about advertising and AI, and then also for any questions and answers we have here at the end. I know Aaron's brought it up a few times, but feel free to put some questions in the chat. I'd like to consider myself somewhat of a subject matter expert around AI, and our team here has really dove into it within Amazon specifically. So.
Yeah, so while you're thinking of some questions, put in the chat. I want to come back quickly to a point that you made earlier, Aaron, about how AI is really only as good as the data that is fed into it. So what does that mean for us now? So like I mentioned earlier, what's available in terms of AI tools right now is going to look very different a year from now, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the road, right? We can't even imagine what it's going to look like at this point. Well, what we do know is that Amazon has a really robust data solution called AMC. And first of all, before we even talk about AI, if you're not using AMC, you absolutely should be. AI, regardless, the value of leveraging AMC to get insights out of it is tremendous all on its own. The reason I bring it up is because more AI tools will be released down the line, and you can bet, calling it here, a lot of it will be fed by AMC data. And so this gives you an opportunity as a brand, as an agency, anybody who has governance over a data set to start building that out now. By the time the tool is available and ready that is fed by AMC data, you'll be behind the ball, behind the game, if you're not already prepared with your data set. So what does that mean? It means bringing in your CRM data from your D2C site, any first-party data that you have that you can feed in. If you're not aware, AMC can integrate all of those data sets and pseudonymize it and then merge it with your Amazon data. And you can look holistically at your performance across e-com in one place. That's their data lake solution, their quick clean room data solution. And you should absolutely be building that out as much as possible. If you have the data, feed it into AMC. Work with Amazon, work with your agency, whoever it is that's helping you navigate AMC, build that out now. It's frankly too late if you're not using it already in terms of getting a leg up just from the AMC functionality that currently exists. But it's going to be even worse once AI is plugged into AMC. If you're not already, working with a robust built-out data set, these things take time to set up, and so you want to get ahead of it as much as possible. But what can we use AI for today in Amazon advertising? A million things, right? There's just like we said earlier, there's a million directions you can go in. It can be really overwhelming. But I want to give you an example of something that I like to use it for that I think is really impactful immediately. So how do you set yourself apart on Amazon from the competition, right? Like that's what we do as advertisers fundamentally, and that's what we've always done. Now we have so much that we can work with, right? So before AI, we could scrape competitive PDPs. We could look at what questions shoppers are asking. We could look at reviews. We could scrape that, build a massive data set, spend a whole bunch of time combing through it, tagging, segmenting, looking for trends, analyze that process data. This takes time. It takes human resources. Now, essentially, that can be all automated with AI. We can build that kind of insight in 5 minutes, right? And what that enables us to do, if we can identify that shoppers are either not finding the information that they want on competitive PDPs, or there's themes and ratings and reviews. Most of the competition faces this one specific challenge. Maybe the products break on the way to the shopper, or there's a quality issue, or there's a sizing issue. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. If there's a gap, an opportunity, we can identify that almost immediately And then we can leverage ad strategies to plug that gap and demonstrate why we don't have that problem, right? So one of my favorite workflows for this is scraping competitive PDPs and reviews and identifying 3 areas where there's a common issue with competitive products, and then building a sponsor brand video creative that specifically addresses why our brand doesn't have that problem. That way, like, we know that shoppers, whether they're interacting with AI, they might be typing into ChatGPT, what are some common issues when people buy this type of product? Or they're just observing that on site, looking at ratings and reviews, looking at the questions that have been asked. So there's a lot of material there, and this is the shopper journey at its core, right? Why do I want this product over that other product? Let me put them side by side. I don't want it if it's going to be broken and spilled when it gets to me. That's where we have an opportunity to highlight, we don't have this problem that you're afraid of by potentially purchasing from one of our competitors. And the reason I call it sponsor brand video is because that's easier to produce now with AI. Makes us a lot easier to do that faster. That's one of the most challenging types of creative and content to put together because it just takes a lot of time to do. It takes a lot of expertise to do. With AI, it makes it a lot faster. And they appear right in the search engine results page. So these, if you're not familiar, are the video ads that play after you type in a keyword. You see it in line in the search engine results. That's the best place to set yourself apart from competition over a specific issue. So if you sell jarred pickles and everybody else has themes on their ratings and reviews and questions about the jars breaking or leaking before you get there, that's something you can hammer home in your ad creative right in the search engine results page. By the time they've seen that ad, they've probably looked at another PDP or 2 of your competitors, and they know this is something to watch out for. And so if you're able to demonstrate there that this isn't an issue for your brand, you're much more likely to convert. You're much more likely to gain a long-term shopper that way. This is especially important if you have a higher price than the competitors that you are sitting next to on Amazon. One of the most common things we face as an advertiser is the cheap Chinese knockoffs are selling it for 20% less, 50% less, and it's right next to mine. There's only so much room in the title. So how do I demonstrate to shoppers that this is not a cheap Chinese knockoff and this is actually the legit product? Sponsored brand video is the way to do that, but it needs to be very targeted. What you'll usually find when you encounter sponsored brand video content on site is that it's been repurposed from somewhere else. It's been repurposed from the brand store or the D2C site or the PDP. But sponsored brand video content should be specifically designed to solve a problem in the search. How are shoppers interacting with it? So I've taken up a lot of time here. I'm going to make sure we leave some time for the end. But that's one of my favorite implementations of AI right now. And it doesn't involve some crazy specific proprietary tool. This is something you can assess with pretty much any AI tool.
Yeah.
So it's easily accessible. So sorry, Trisha, for giving away the secret sauce there, but you can do that.
That was a good nugget.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting right here to the end. Like maybe we go around for some review Q&A. Oh, perfect. Look at this.
No, just what we covered was kind of what AI, creatives, advertising, daily use, content, custom GPTs, and catalog management, as well as Amazon usage. And to your point, Aaron, I think any questions that people want to wrap up with. David, Josh, what about fresh?
Yeah. What I'm excited about is like the future of AI. That we're at the point right now where it's at the worst it's ever going to be.
Right.
And so a lot of the questions that are popping up right now, there's random, a couple companies here or there who've totally embraced it, usually smaller, and are starting to really take off in its use. Again, it's restricted by the amount of clean data that's out there. But we're in this beginning conversation. I don't want, just from the conversations I have with brands, nobody's like, we're still in the first inning, and it's not like everybody's way behind, but it is the time. I totally get your data in order right now. Get plugged into Marketing Cloud for sure. I totally love it, Jonathan. That is, it's so true, because you're not going to be able to do that last minute. And it's something that's all your data, and all you're doing is, harvesting it and cleaning it and standardizing it and using it now for the time when AI really starts to take off in some of these tools. But do we want to go around for Key takeaways, and then as we get to last minute, we'll get to Davin's questions. What are the best practices to protect against sharing sensitive information within your custom GPTs? Oh, that's almost
Another,
Davin, what?
I could give you a quick bullet point on that. And that is recognizing what platform you're using and what security protocols they have within that. So risk first reward, like anything within your business, and recognizing that ChatGPT on your pro users say that it will not train on your data or share your data, but that finding out what breakpoints would cause a failure within your business or leak something that might be confidential, right? And deciding what that might be worth. I will say a tool you can utilize to bring a little bit more security is bringing a model onto your local network to your personal computer and building out a platform there. You can install an LLM and doing the training on that, so it's not as high risk. But there's always going to be some sort of risk, right? There's always hack, there's always whatever it might be at what level you're at, corporate espionage, whatever it might be. Figure out what security measures that platform you're using has, and then figuring out what risks you can take.
Can you send out AI Zoom recap to all attendees? This will drop on YouTube in a few days. Everything goes through Otter to pull out key takeaways, and then I will publish those to a LinkedIn newsletter. So it's probably 2 minutes. If you want the full video, we can send the link. It's next up in digital YouTube page. So, and that's pretty much everything. We kicked it off a few months ago, every webinar we do going forward. So like it, subscribe it, and you'll see everything new pop up. But I see we're like right at time here. Trisha, do you want to kind of wrap us up, bring us home? This has been super fun.
oh, I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity on this subject. Everybody's talking about it. You're not alone. We're all in this together. But embrace it. And I guess for me, my takeaway, I'll let Josh and Jonathan say again. I said it earlier, but humans are still the final filter on everything. Just remember that content is king, but we're still the final filter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would encourage everybody, have a follow-up conversation with the team over at Lunge. They're super great people, super knowledgeable, and all around great friends, partners, supporters to a lot of brands in the network. So worth a follow-up conversation with them as well. But with that, we are literally right at time, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time. So Jonathan, Trisha, Josh, thanks so much for your time today. This has been super fun. Thanks everybody for the great participation, the great questions. Look for follow-up emails from us. And with that, we're going to wrap up this webinar. Thanks everybody. Have a great day. We'll see you.